Well, let's focus on conservation matters now. China has defended its decision to reverse a ban on the trade in tiger bones and rhino horn. Beijing says the partial lifting only affects tigers and rhinos bred on farms. It further says the animal parts will only be used for scientific, medical and cultural use. Conservationists have said China's decision is a huge setback to efforts aimed at conserving endangered wildlife species. However, China says regulation on the trade will be strengthened and strictly controlled.
China will insist in putting protection into priority for lifting of this ban. Also, we will attach great importance on strict supervision. Based on requests from home and international communities, China will implement the new policy within some limited, restricted areas and call on cooperations from various segments. Chinese government will also guide Chinese public to be aware of animal protection to ensure that the new policy can be carried out smoothly.
Well, there's been plenty of reaction coming from the conservation community. So to discuss this a little further, we're now joined in studio by Jim Karani, Legal Affairs Manager at Wildlife Direct. Jim, a pleasure to have you with us. A move to lift the ban on rhino horn, tiger bones. It's been described as a huge setback for conservation efforts. What's your take?
Well, same thing I will say about that. It's a little bit catastrophic coming at a time like this, when studies are showing that our wildlife and animals in nature are decreasing and declining overall. We're talking of numbers like 60%. So to us, it's a bit shocking that they're making this decision right now.
It may be shocking, but of course China is defending this move. They're saying they will improve law enforcement mechanisms. They're going to step up efforts to crack down on illegal wildlife trade. Do you think that this is enough, especially to deter would-be poachers?
Well, to be honest, China has boldly stated that it will only go to certified doctors, certified hospitals, and of course it will be strictly monitored. But the one thing they haven't told us is we've had this story before. We've had this about ivory, had this about rhino horn. When they banned this before, they do not currently have the strict measures to put this into play. They may have the ban, but they haven't truly trained their law enforcement to be able to differentiate legal and non-legal ivory. As you may know, it's an entirely prohibitively expensive process to differentiate the two. We believe illegally sourced and poached wildlife products will be taken from our remaining wild populations in Africa, and of course the 4,000 remaining in captivity in the wild right now for tiger populations. We believe that it comes at a very great cost. That it is true they're trying to turn this into medicine for their population, many of whom labor under many diseases that Eastern medicine claims can actually fix. Now, truly, there's science, a lot of body of knowledge out there showing that Eastern medicine, especially when it comes to rhino horn and tiger bones, does not work. We think it's a very huge cost comparing to the decimation of two of our most iconic species, that is rhino and tigers.
Indeed. And of course also, as you say, the black rhino in Kenya, you talk about these populations that are declining, but there have been some, there has been some progress and certainly some good things that have happened lately. Sure. Kenya has doubled their black rhino population for the first time in 35 years. And that's because of conservation efforts around tough anti-poaching laws, tough laws around trophy hunting. But in light of China's decision, how are countries like Kenya going to maintain this momentum? What needs to be done on our end?
Well, to be honest, we are trying to do as much as we can from the supply end. Now, you can only imagine what this reversal of a ban is going to do on the demand side of things. It's going to increase the demand for these wildlife products. What it's going to do, it's going to add more pressure on our law enforcement to, reinvigorate and boost and enhance their efforts to make sure that, poaching doesn't truly happen. What we see here is, what we know for sure is China as a government and the Chinese people truly understand conservation. That they, out of their own effort and sheer will and skill, were able to return the panda, for example, from sheer extinction. True? But now, if we were to tell them that we have a disease in Africa that we want to cure, which has very little scientific proof that actually it works, but it comes from their very iconic panda, they will not give us that. We're saying the same about our rhinos, we're saying the same about our tigers. Well, tigers may not be from the African continent, but now here's the weirdest thing about this. Because of the use of tiger bones, now traffickers have now resorted to using lion bones and lion skeletons that are now being taken a lot from South Africa, and of course exacerbating the poaching issue we have in Kenya and of course in East Africa. What we're saying is the cost is too huge for very little benefit based on the scientific proof we have.
Well, Jim Karani, thank you so much for sharing your views. It does raise some very concerning issues there in the conservation sector.